So I ended up working for the school that I graduated from as an admissions officer. And it was one of those, like, I graduated as a sociology major. So aside from like teaching, I really had no idea what the hell to do with it.
Oh, that's why you're
Um,
capable of being friends with me. You were into sociology. Nice shit. All right. I get it now.
all right,
Totally
that
understand.
makes a connection.
Yeah.
And I was on student government, surprise, surprise. And we had like weekly meetings with the VP, was there senior VP of student enrollment or something. And she and I just got to be friends. She was amazing. I'm still in touch with her to this day. She's an incredible mentor. And she had asked me, like, what are you doing after graduation? And I was like, I don't know. So they signed me up to work in admissions, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I get to spend all of my day talking to different people. I get to travel. I get to like make decisions on applications and like get to know a bunch of people. And so I did that for a couple of years. Was in a relationship at the time that ended. And I was like, Boston is just too small of a town for me right now. I want to go live in New York City. So I got another job in admissions. I moved down to the city, and then I was there for like 15 years, and I just bounced back between like higher ed and corporate stuff.
That's great. I remember you were working for a school at one point, like a university.
Yeah, I was working for NYU.
NYU, that's right.
Yeah. I was doing their graduate stuff on the MBA admission side. And then I left to go recruit in corporate world, like do some diversity and inclusion stuff. And that was really awesome. I had the best
Did
time
you
there.
I've heard a lot. I've heard mixed reviews about working for the DEI. How did you find it, the group that you were with?
Amazing.
Really?
Yeah. I worked for a place that was very focused on metrics. So in other words, like the landscape right now is very different, just given all the legal aspects that you have to watch out for. But when I was there, it was like very much understanding that the company that I worked for understood that it was their responsibility to build a pipeline as well as recruit. So if you want a diverse slate coming in of interns and full-time employees, like you can't just go and find them, you have to build it. And so that was a big piece of my job, was building the pipeline into those areas. And it was amazing. I had the best time. I ended up leaving because it was a job that required a lot of travel, and I had 2 kids at that time. Andy was still really young.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, it just didn't jive with where I was personally, but it was an incredible, incredible role. I've been exposed to other companies and been exposed to other pieces around the DEI where they just want it to be like, happy, shiny, look, Black History Month, la, la, la. And they don't actually care about what their employees are experiencing.
Yeah, I was reading somewhere. Well, I mean, I've looked into a couple of different, but there was one. Oh, I know the popular one right now is Harvard, but I don't think it was Harvard. I feel like it was.
Oh, the Supreme Court case?
No. It just with the DEI and what it was. There was a woman there that like she went there. It was a Black lady. Hey, babe.
Hi.
She went there and she was the head of the DEI for. It escapes me. I feel like it's probably Harvard because that's the last thing I just looked at, but it might have been a different one. But she was trying to, include Jewish kids, like the Jewish population, she felt like they were the ones that were the most underserved as far as like getting the spots and whatever it was.
Oh, interesting.
And the college was not about it. Like the head of the whatever section that is a university or whatever, they just were not. It was this whole long detailed article and then she even wrote her own kind of like report account of it,
rebuttal to it.
Yeah. And I've heard people like you that say it actually does do what it's supposed to do, and the people that work on each individual DEI council actually do things that are necessary for students to thrive and the culture to thrive. And I've heard it the exact other way, where the university it was almost like they had the DEI just to save face, but they didn't really want there to be inclusion.
Yeah. I mean, it's like building, and now it's like they call it belonging. So it's diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So It's like, you can't just bring a set of diverse kids to campus, plop them on there, and then wash your hands of it. Like, you actually have to influence the culture, which is huge now because it went from like, oh, let's just bring Black and Hispanic kids to campus. Like, let's bring the brown kids, right?
Yeah.
The Black and brown kids to campus, and then bring them there, and they'd have awful experiences, right? And so now it's like belonging means that you have to impact. It's not just the Black and the brown kids that you're thinking about, but it's how everybody in the community interacts with each other. So it's like a much larger lens now, because to build belonging for every person on a college campus or in a company or in a community, like that is a lot of work, right? And it's like hand to hand. I call it like hand to hand combat, because you have to think about all these issues that matter to different people and different populations. Um, but I often think, and this is like my soapbox on this lens, is that a lot of these places they're not necessarily not set up for Black and brown students. That I think is debatable, but not always set up for kids that are from different socioeconomic backgrounds, particularly the lower ones, right? And like your Black and brown students are disproportionately going to come from those backgrounds. So you put a kid in an environment where it's $60,000 just to go to school, just to go to class. And we're not talking about surviving, having friendships, having community. And you bring that student there and you don't account for what it's like to be a low income kid whose family might not even make 60K a year, and yet tuition is 60K a year. And you don't sit down and think about what it's like for that kid to come there, whether they're white, Black, Asian, like whatever the demographic is. If you don't think about that socioeconomic perspective when you're bringing someone like that in, then you're not looking at the full lens. And I think that the D&I conversation has stopped at race for so many of these places and not looked at the larger lens of socioeconomic backgrounds.
I thought for a long time that I don't know if it's so much about race anymore as it is so much about the socioeconomic, because
I mean, they're tied so intricately, right?
yeah, I mean,
Like,
but there's a whole bunch of different areas of the world too where there's a white population that is living below poverty, and
yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
I mean, it's dense. Like they have their own sections all over the place,
Yeah.
but they're probably not going to end up at.
No, they're not getting into the top schools. And
Right.
like when I was an undergrad, I remember finding a crew of the poor kids. We were the first generation college students, or my parents went to some college but then had to drop out. Like, and that group
Oh, shut up! Really?
was mixed. Like that was the group that it was like, yo, who's got money on their dining card? So and so. Okay, listen, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna buy the
Really?
ramen, and we're gonna split. Yeah, like we had our own like little marketplace to like get the things. Like someone would be like, yo, do you have this book from last class? Yeah. If you go to that professor, they'll give you the book. If you go to that professor, they'll give you the PDF. Like we knew where all those pieces were. But I think it was really hard to be a poor white kid on campus because you didn't get some of these benefits that other students did because they were also Black and brown.
So is that what the point of the DEI is supposed to be? Like, or is the point of it? Because I think most people think that the point of the DEI is literally just to bring more Black and brown. And now I guess
I think
Asian
it's to reflect what society actually looks like, right? Like society. If you take a screenshot of a school, of a university, and I, as I was saying that, I was thinking like probably not the top 10 because they actually have the resources to bring in a diverse class, but like some of these other schools, like they really do struggle to build community that is reflective of what the United States looks like right now.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you have disproportionate representation, overrepresentation, or underrepresentation, that's where DEI is supposed to come in and like and do some of that. And there's also a huge social justice component to it, right? Like,
oh, that's
talking,
all that isn't that all colleges are right now is just, yeah.
I mean, I want my kids to go to a school where they're interacting with people that they're going to meet on a day-to-day basis, whether it's in their jobs, in their neighborhoods, in their communities. Like I went to a school that was predominantly white, and I was comfortable with that because my high school was predominantly white. But a lot of my friends who were like, this is crazy. Like we feel like such fish out of water.
What do you think about when people go, well, from whichever side, whether they're left, right, whatever, and they go to college campuses to speak like on behalf of conservatives or that go speak on behalf of liberals, and there's such a visceral reaction from the other side? like they call for this person to be banned from campus and can't speak, and call for the university to not let this person speak and whatever. I think that's so sad. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I have such a strong opinion about it. I think that when the speaker is coming and saying that a certain class of people don't have a right to exist, or calling for violence against a certain class of people,
no, I wasn't
that's
going
where
down that road.
Yeah, but like
yeah,
there's some
I get
that,
it. Yeah,
that like they waltz up to that line and they're like they're right there and they know they can't cross it. But I think conservative viewpoints or like whatever, like those don't go away in the real world. In fact, they just get worse. Like you might be in a position where that person who has a conservative mind frame or a liberal mind frame that you don't agree with, that they're the ones that are like deciding your salary or your bonus or like how quickly you're going to like move through the company. So I don't think that these controversial speakers should necessarily be canceled, but I think there's a lot of
take like a Candace Owens.
Yeah. Oh God. Someone needs to pull Candace aside and tell her like,
oh girl,
I know, poor thing.
No, I used to
think
not be able to listen to anything she freaking says,
Yeah.
and now I'm not all in with her, but there are some things in there, some nuggets in there that I'm like, oh, okay, I can actually listen to you.
Yeah, like I think that if you disagree with someone, you need to be able to listen to them, right?
Yeah.
There's like, but there are so many speakers that get lumped in that actively call certain lifestyles or certain people's choices. Like we lump them all in. And so it's hard to figure out like people who are saying that certain types of people shouldn't exist.
Yeah, that's
don't
that now we're going. But
yeah, but like someone like Candace Owens, like, are you kidding me? I have a phone. I can watch everything of
that
hers
she's ever said. Yeah.
Right. So like trying to limit access to that person by not bringing them to campus, I think is a little bit silly because it's not like you're going to stop kids from
And also too, but I think you should be able to, even if you are the person that doesn't agree, like you don't agree with her, right? You should be able to go and have a conversation respectfully and like be like, hey, like, listen, I know you don't like my lifestyle or think that my lifestyle is good for the traditional well-being of the family. I get it. That's fine. Like, I don't need you to like
I don't need you to sign off on my life.
Right.
Yeah.
But how do traditional values, blah, 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 help? Blah, 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 whatever. You can just have that conversation. And I feel like we're not teaching these kids how to have these conversations. I feel like we're just teaching them to yell and scream until they're blue in the face and the person they don't like goes away.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes these cases get like really blown out of proportion because they don't happen that often. And most colleges do bring a pretty balanced set of speakers. I think it's the ones that are like those lightning rods that tend to create this hullabaloo.
Well, everybody loves the lightning rods. You can't.
Because it makes for good news cycle, right?
I love it when Ben Shapiro goes places. That's like my favorite thing in the world.
Every time I think about him, I think about what he said about his wife or like whatever, and I'm just like, I can't take you seriously.
He's another one I couldn't stomach for the longest time either, but I had to make myself sit because I'm like, okay, what are these people talking about? Why are they so inflammatory?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, part of it is that that's their career. And so they have to stay.
Oh, no, I love it. When Shapiro gets petty and gets online and gets petty with like Shaun King and like all these other guys, I live for Petty Wop Wednesday, man.
Petty Wednesday.
I am ready. Let's go. When this one's a little too much. Like Shaun King and Shapiro are going head to head on the, like Shapiro is obviously pro-Jewish, the Jewish state, and Shaun King is pro-Palestine. But they're getting a little like, now it's a little too much, guys. Like we're talking about people dying, babies dying, children dying, innocents die. Like let's bring it down.
I do think it's important to have people in your life that have much different perspectives and like to understand how you can still see their humanity, right? Because at the end, I think that's what we lose when we do this. Like you still have to be able to see someone's humanity. Now, if they're not willing to see your humanity, like that's a different story. And I think sometimes I go down the rabbit hole of this person is writing off a whole class of people and doesn't understand the historical context of why they're here. And I think in the US especially, we think about people's circumstances so individually, like, oh, they're here because they don't want to work, or like they're here because they want to take our jobs. And I'm talking about Latinos specifically, right? And it's like, hey, look at the context of like global US policies with regards to Central America. Just go down that rabbit hole for 2 seconds and you'll see what that shit is,
That's
right?
that goes all the way back to Iran Contra. Like
Oh, even
that's,
before that,
I mean,
yeah.
that's the one I studied the
Trujillo in
most,
the
but
50s in the DR, like, man, we were
we
freaking
had our
Castro,
hands
like, we
yeah,
had our hands in so much, and so
like we do now.
yeah. Well, I know, but it's this conversation of
And the US is getting ready to play with Venezuela too. Did you see that?
they've been in there for a while.
They're getting ready to ease sanctions and start
Well,
doing ball, playing
because
ball,
China and Iran
playing ball. Yep.
are they're doing more than playing ball.
Oh
They're
yeah.
using it as a pass through.
Yeah.
So the US is finally like, oh, okay, yeah, they do that. But I think it's really interesting. The more I know about something, the less strong my opinion is of it because I realize how much I don't know about it. And
Yeah.
so when I see a speaker that's like so inflammatory and so this, I'm like, show me all of the learning that you've done around this subject and how you're still at this viewpoint.
I tend to like the ones that are less loud about it. Like you get Tucker and he's super loud and I'm like, the louder you get, the less I want to listen to you.
Totally.
The less I want to know and
Yep.
the less I do not like.
Yeah.
Candace, I can stomach. Shapiro when he's normal, I can stomach him.
Yeah.
There's
like someone like Alex Jones, right? Who was just like
Megyn Kelly. I can.
Oh my God, I can't.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah, no. Well, I think the whole Sandy Hook thing.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I didn't follow him very closely anyway. But when that happened, I was like, why would you?
Oh, you're talking about the radio guy.
Yeah, the radio guy. Yeah.
Megyn. Yeah.
No, Megyn Kelly was.
She's all right. I like. She's just one of those people that doesn't yell. But I forget the radio guy's name. Shoot. But
the one who had lung cancer or whatever.
Did he? He's the guy that did the Sandy Hook stuff. That said that.
That's Alex Jones. Yeah, that's Alex Jones.
Okay. He. Yeah, that was bad, man. I was like.
And when you don't realize what influence you have when you say those things, like that is concerning. And so this willingness to trade your fame and 15 minutes of your career and like to be just at the top of the headlines for the privilege of misinforming people, that's when I have a problem with what's going on, because there are actually people who will speak about the US needs to close its borders. And sometimes I'm like, yep, like we need to figure this out because it's
too much right now.
It's nuts, and people are being mistreated on either side, right? Yep. So like I can listen to someone that has an argument and has said, here's what's happened in the past, here's what we've tried, here's this and that, and like that's the person but if you come at me with this like generalizations of these immigrants are stealing our jobs and they're also taking all of our money, I'm like, well, which is it? Like, well, who's hiring them? Because it ain't other immigrants hiring other immigrants, I'll tell you right now. So like,
no, there's even a little jostling going on between new immigrants and the existing ones. So I mean, there has to be a conversation. Nobody wanted to be like, hey, don't build the wall, because all of us want to be, we want to try to be as welcoming and compassionate to everybody as we can. But at some point, man.
Yeah. What kills me about the wall thing is that like something like 70 to 80% of immigration happens when people overstay their visas for which they fly over.
No, I know.
So it's like, y'all, this is not the problem that you think.
I don't think any wall is
the solution, rather.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it might help Border Patrol, but it's not.
It was that I'm going to trade this for my career and my fame. That's when I have just like, oh, you don't actually want a solution. You just want to be incendiary and you want to get your sponsorships. Yep. Exactly. That's, I think. And that's, I think, what's happening on like
that's dangerous
with our kids too. Yeah, because they're hearing these people who are they just want to be the loudest voice in the room, and they're not necessarily concerned with educating. And so, like, my kids will come home and say, "Oh, blah 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 blah," and I'm like,
I didn't know how he thought he was going to get away with that anyway, just because of how painful that was. Like the whole country.
Why would you go after that group?
The whole country is basically bipartisan when it comes to, make sure the schools are safe, make sure our kids are safe, make sure like we're
pretty much in agreement. Yeah. It's like 70% of Americans are for gun control or something.
I mean, it's like, I don't kill the Second Amendment, but yes, gun control. There's no reason why little kids should. And I like the fact that they're gonna, if your 7-year-old gets a hold of your gun and walks into a school and shoots it up, now parents are liable too. Absolutely. And you should be.
Yeah.
So we think we're all in agreement for the most part on that one.
Yeah, like it's the steps I have to go through to get my car on the road far more than what I would need to. I'm like, dude, I'm just asking for you to be
Yeah,
responsible.
right.
That's it.
Yeah.